What's going on, guys? Welcome to the scent bubble. Good morning. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about vanilla and just a little bit of stream of consciousness on that idea as it relates to perfumery. um, it's important that when we talk about different things on this channel, that I don't want to come with a script, because I think sometimes, even though that would be more laid out for you and more by the book, there are things I want to leave out for the sake of you guys exploring and learning things on your own journey. And so I'm perfectly content doing a video like this, knowing that it's not going to touch on everything that I want or be completely well-rounded. Now, you guys know me, I talk more than your average person, so there will be a well-rounded sense about it in terms of having a lot of information for it, but there will be some holes, and your job is to take the information and complete those missing things in your mind. Now, with vanilla is really interesting for me in perfumery, because I'm pretty picky with my vanillas. Vanilla is not really a note that excites me about a fragrance, and so much so that I often find myself gravitating towards scents that use vanilla as an accent rather than a vanilla celebration type of fragrance where it's like 60% or more of a fragrance. But in my journey, I've found some pretty awesome vanillas that kind of showcase the variety that can be offered in a vanilla fragrance, and it's given me a lot more respect for that style, that DNA, that profile, that note. With that being said, let me just walk through in my mind some vanillas styles that I've seen, and then talk about fragrances that showcase that. And I think it's important because if you don't have variety in vanilla, I think it's kind of one of those notes where you have two or so fragrances that have it in there, and as long as you have a vanilla fragrance, you know, you're straight. Or a vanilla fragrance or two, maybe a daytime and a nighttime vanilla or something like that, right? But vanilla is actually like, I feel like because it's one of the cheaper accords and notes to play with, the sky's the limit for it. In fact, I think vanilla is the most sought after note in perfumery in terms of the desire of the public. Like, the public, more people than not, are looking for vanilla based fragrances than any other note in perfumery, and I think that's across the board for both men and women. So it's just like readily available as a synthetic vanillin, I believe. I think there's more materials that can yield a vanillic scent profile, but I believe that's the one that's mainly used. Who knows? But okay, so different styles of vanilla. So for me, vanilla has a weight. So one of the things I think through is light, medium, and heavy. What is the weight of the vanilla? Now, obviously, the lighter the vanilla is, and again, we're talking about vanilla celebration fragrances. What do I mean by that? I mean fragrances where the dominant note is vanilla, so much so that you would call it a vanilla fragrance. You have light, medium, and heavy weight. And the lighter you go with your vanilla, the more versatile it is for time of day and season. And the heavier the vanilla, typically the more heavy the vibe. So for instance, the heavier the vanilla, the more fall winter it typically leans, the more sensual it leans, the more singular occasion it leans. And then as you freshen that up and go lighter and airy, it can go more day and night and 4 seasons. Typical styles of vanilla that I see outside of weight is you then have what kind of vanilla, or actually you have texture. So what is the texture of the vanilla? What if it was 3D or 4-dimensional as a vanilla, what are the features of it? Is it ashy? Is it airy? Is it chalky? Is it creamy? Is it powdery? Is it ambery? Is it, you know, like ice cream? What kind of ice cream? You know, is it herbal? Is it plant-like? You know, just various textures of the vanilla. So one way that I weed out a lot of cheap vanillas, in my opinion, is that if they don't have texture to them of any kind and they just smell sweet, you know, this concept of like general sweetness, I tend to steer clear of those styles. And I think it's really important for your vanillas to have dimension, not just be a sweet component to a fragrance, but that it actually have a designated weight, a designated texture, and then obviously accents. And accents is kind of like not specifically texture, it's more of what notes are with the vanilla, okay? So you have the weight of the vanilla, the texture of the vanilla, and then what are the accomplices to the vanilla? You know, what notes are going with it, either to create contrast or similar vibe, profile, etc. Those are the three categories I kind of think through. So with that being said, the styles of vanilla that I see typically out in the space today would be things like, you know, ambery vanilla, animalic vanilla. So this would be your castorums, your ouds, any kind of mysterious note that adds depth and mystery and complexity to a scent or to a vanilla. You have resinous vanilla. You have, wow, that car just almost ran into that other car. That was crazy. You have, again, creamy, ashy, chalky, buttery vanilla. You have smoky vanilla. You have vanilla white florals. That's a common combo. And as you get into women's scents, that white floral vanilla starts to even branch further into more charactered florals. Like you might have the white florals, but then you add something like heliotrope or something. You know, a lot of your Billie Eilish, Ariana Grande stuff kind of imitates that profile. But even on the men's unisex side, we have, you know, the summer mink type stuff, the Gucci Guilty Love Edition stuff, the Absolute Pour Homme. What else? Oh, and then you have vanilla being used as like a glue to a fragrance. So maybe you might have a very aromatic green fragrance that's just like super brash and has a lot of stuff sticking out. And sometimes vanilla can be used significantly, you know, in the 20-40% range to kind of like just glue everything together and smooth everything out. So vanilla has this way about it where the sweetness and the texture of it can oftentimes take a lot of loud stick out elements and just kind of give a uniformity to a scent. So that's nice too. And then you have like fruity vanillas and things like that. Some of the, now what I kind of want to do is talk about like some vanillas that stand out to me in the space and kind of break down based off of those three things: the weight, the texture, and the accent. Tell you why I think those fragrances are nice. Really, I think finding your level of sweetness, level of sweet comfort with vanilla is really important. You know, that's why you guys often hear me tell you like 4 out of 10 sweet. And I'm trying to describe, you know, super sweet all the way down to like barely recognizably sweet to let you know the level of sweetness you're getting into. Because for me, I don't know if you're the same, vanilla, I have a desired sweetness for the vanilla. For me, it's like anywhere between fragrances with like a splash, like 30%. The highest I feel I go in most cases would be like 50-60% vanilla. Because, and we're not talking fragrance concentration, I'm just saying in the fragrance. If it's like over 60% sweet, that's when I start putting my red flags up, like, oh, this is a little too sweet. I like good sweetness for fall, winter, and evening, but for the most part, for daily wear, I like less than 4 out of 10 intensity when it comes to sweetness. So finding your level of like comfort with sweetness is really essential, because as you try fragrances, stuff will just be like, nope, that's too much. Oh, you know, this is like around my sweet spot, or oh, this is a little bit risky. But anyways, okay, let's name some vanilla fragrances that I'm really digging so far on my journey for what they bring to the table. So first one, Grand Soir, MFK. Why do I like it? It's an ambery, buttery, savory vanilla. It's intense, it's heavy. I don't know if syrupy is the right word, but it's dense and buttery. An ambery, buttery vanilla. It's just like the pinnacle. It's so amazing that fragrance is so simple, yet I've never smelled a vanilla in the amber, buttery vanilla realm that beats Grand Soir. It's just so intoxicatingly sensual and sweet and buttery that it's like inescapable. And so that's like a staple vanilla. A lot of people, it's a 50-50 fragrance. Like people either love it or hate it, but I love it for the fact that nothing else comes close to it. And it's a very intoxicatingly sensual, upscale, like fantasy kind of vanilla. And that's the buttery, ambery style, but it's got a heavy weight to it. It's like middle heavyweight. And the texture of it is that it's buttery, it's savory, it's thick, you know, it's lingering sillage, endless amounts of sillage. Then you've got like a gentle Fluidity Gold from MFK, which is like a luxury, ashy, middleweight vanilla. It's almost chalky without feeling thick. You know, it's airy, but it's a little bit denser than airy. That's why I call it chalky. It's not quite powdery either. It's got an ashiness to it, to where it's not the smoothest, but the airiness is very diffusive and it's nice in the air. Then you think about a fragrance like Memoirs of a Trespasser from Imaginary Authors, which is, you know, an ice creamish vanilla, you know, very airy, but somewhat middleweight to low weight. It's airy and diffusive, but it's thick and it's resinous. You've got kind of like this idea of a fireplace going on in a library with books everywhere. There's this kind of like old vintage papery, sweet paper smell. Any of you guys who ever used to have libraries as a kid, you go check out an old book, there's almost this sweet paper kind of feel to it. And so it's a middle to low weight, airy, diffusive, resinous, ambery, airy, warm vanilla. And it's really intriguing. Then you've got like Iberia from the collaboration with the Giant and the Giant Connoisseur and Zaharoff, which is very similar to Memoirs of a Trespasser. I would say Iberia is a bit more safer and more, it's like somewhere between Grand Soir and Memoirs of a Trespasser. It's like a middleweight, leans more sensual, buttery, resinous, but more mass appealing than Memoirs of a Trespasser, because that kind of sweet pages of a book kind of element has gone. You have the experimental kind of animalic vanillas with Absolute Aphrodisiac, and many of the fragrances from Initio have vanilla in them. Like I would say probably more than like 60%. That is a brand known for its like intoxicating, sensual, intimate, romantic vanillas. They do a lot of that. So like for instance with Absolute Aphrodisiac, you have either oud or castoreum, one of the two, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's castoreum. So you have animalics, just for lack of better description, they create weight and depth and sometimes mystery. You know, it's like, what is that back there? And it just kind of changes the whole vibe. So with that vanilla, it's a sensual, intoxicating vanilla with a little bit of mystery behind it. You know, taking it down to our designers, you have like Boss Bottle the Scent Magnetic, which has a manuka fruit, which is like a, you know, a unique style fruit. I don't know much about it, but it's different and it's not in much perfumery. So that vanilla has like this, and then I think it's brand, which is like of the oatmeal family. So it's kind of got this oats and vanilla, but then there's this manuka fruit. So like there's this little fruity pop to the vanilla and it's oatmealish. You know, that's a really unique style. It's like a sweet oatmeal with a little bit of fruit in it, you know? So that's a really unique vanilla take. Boss Bottle the Scent Magnetic. And you have like Mercedes-Benz Club Black Edition, which to me is like a fundamental, affordable, cheapy baseline vanilla. You have like the Leighton style, which is a very herbal, aromatic take with vanilla. You know, you have the vanilla, but then you have like almost like a floral herbal pop to it. So it's like middleweight, it's airy, but then it's sometimes medicinal, sometimes aromatic. And that's a really interesting take. I'm trying to think if there's any other vanillas. Oh, and then you have stuff like, to me, like when I think of, I don't know if it has vanilla in it, but it does what vanilla would do. I imagine it would do in this scenario. So like, for instance, Guerlain's Aqua Allegoria Forte Neroli Vetiver is like a beautiful vetiver Neroli. It's mostly Neroli. It's mostly a sweet Neroli with a splash of fig, and you know, a good vetiver complexity to it. It's nice mass appeal, unisex, sweet luxury fragrance. But I imagine there's vanilla in there because it's got a good amount of sweetness and it seems vanillic. But that, in that case, kind of just smooths out the whole composition from being like disjointed. It's like a glue to a fragrance, just putting a little bit of sweetness in there. What other vanillas come to my mind? Oh, and then obviously you have your like 1 millions and things like that. Like 1 million, the kind of cinnamon, the cinnamon ambery, sensual, intoxicating vanilla. That's kind of like the spicy sweet vanilla variety. That's really nice. You know, that's extremely popular. I mean, how many? I think there's over 20 different flankers to the 1 million line, and they're all different variations of spicy, sweet, and aromatic vanillas. You know, it's funny when we talk about vanilla, I know that there's tons of fragrances I'm leaving out, so I can just picture you guys like, oh, why didn't you name this? You also have your summer mink style, you know, the white floral. So like even Initio's Musk Therapy, it's like a vanillic, super white floral. Summer mink in the same fashion, you know, tons of musk, tons of white florals and vanilla. You've got the cloud fragrances from, I think, Ariana Grande. You got the Billie Eilish stuff that does the same thing. Gucci Guilty Elixir, one of my favorites of all time. It's essentially like a vanillic, orris, white floral type of experience. Apollonia from Xerjoff follows a similar path. You know, and the musky vanilla is another style type, but to me, when I say airy vanilla, typically it's achieved through musk. And again, musk, I believe, is an animalic, but I think musk is different from everything else because I think musk oftentimes breathes like a air and life into a fragrance, whereas when you look at castoreum and civet and oud, those kind of put a mysteriousness behind a fragrance rather than like an airy breath of life kind of approach. So even though in ambergris as well, so I don't really see musk in the same category as like ambergris, civet, castoreum, and oud. They all feel similar. They all feel like cousins, whereas musk just kind of feels like air, you know, a wet air almost to a fragrance. But yeah, there's so many different vanillas, guys. Even Vanille Fatale and Vanilla Sex from Tom Ford. Those, you know, one is more of like an ice cream, airy vanilla. One is a more sensual, resinous vanilla without the butteriness. There's just so many vanillas, guys. And I think we might shortchange them as like, oh, everything is just 1 million, or, you know, everything is just Grand Soir-ish. I really challenge you guys to look in there and investigate the vanilla profile, because there's a lot of cool stuff out there. I'm going to look in my collection tonight to see what vanillas have made it to my collection. I have most of the ones I named for reference, but I would like to go back and just see if I left any out that I would like to, you know, add to the collection. I'm trying to think of like fruity vanillas, like even like a Herba Pura style, I believe, has, you know, vanilla in it. So even the fruity vanilla varieties can be fun. They feel a little bit more feminine leaning, but that's just off the top of my head. I know there's some kind of masculine floral, or sorry, masculine fruity vanillic type of scents that are out there. I'm trying to think if Herba Gold has vanilla in it, which a lot of times with fruits and things like that, you're going to get a very musky vanillic experience with a bunch of different fruit basket kind of elements on it. I'm just spitballing here about vanilla, guys, just taking you through how my mind thinks through vanilla, fragrances I've come across that stand out to me. I know I'm leaving stuff out, but that's okay. I want you to just, you know, the whole point to these videos is just to think more. And the more you know, the more empowered you can be to make like decisions about, you know, what you gravitate towards, and to also have confidence like going out in the world and knowing that there's more stuff out there you don't know about. And but what I'm going to do is I'll list a group of like vanilla dominant fragrances in my description below, and in parentheses I'll put like the style, you know, the weight of it, the texture of it, and the accent of it, so that you guys can kind of have a palette of stuff that is SB approved and also has a lot of variety, and you guys can go decant and get your nose on that stuff. And I'll try to include stuff that you can just find in the store, you know, your Sephoras, your Ultas, and then stuff you may have to order that you've never heard of or seen before. And that way you guys can kind of have a little bit of a roadmap to assist with your hunt for a nice vanilla forward fragrance. Like, comment, subscribe. More importantly, turn on that notification bell. Talk to me. I do talk back. Join the Discord channel below. That's a great place to ask me questions, as well as a lot of the other community members, and to get all the exclusive content first, because there is a lot of it. Check out the playlist section on this channel where I've organized it. If you're new here, we discuss all things fragrance, from, you know, clones, dupes, inspireds, designer, vintage, niche, independent, all that stuff, current events, guides, tips, entertainment, collaborations, all things fragrance. I post more than anybody in the fragrance community, no question. You know, there's multiple videos going up every single day for your fragrance journey, to kind of assist you and to also just enjoy this journey with you guys. If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below. Let me know. How about this? Let's do your top 3 vanillas in your collection that you have in bottle form, not decant. I want to know what vanillas you have in bottle form and that you would classify as your top 3. I just thought of another Aylin from day 3. There's just so many good vanillas out there. But anyways, drop your top 3 in the comment section below. Let's get a conversation started, and I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day. I'm going to head into work, so I hope you guys have a great day too, and peace out.